Next customer, please come this way. The cash registers were getting crowded, so I quickly opened the one next to me and started guiding customers. After a little while, the lines cleared up, and I went back to stocking the shelves. "Mary, you're amazing at handling the customers so quickly," said a coworker, another part-timer like me. "I enjoy working here. There are lots of high school students and people around my age, so it's a good environment. My name is Mary, and I'm a 45-year-old part-time worker and a housewife. I've been working at this supermarket for about 10 years. I got this job when my child started elementary school. It was a part-time position at a local supermarket I was hiring. There are many housewives like me working here, and even the manager is a parent, so it's a very family-friendly workplace. Over the years, I've become one of the longest working employees, and I know many of the customers by now. They often greet me when they see me. I get along well with the other part-timers and the high school students too. But I never expected what happened next. One day, we learned that our manager everyone liked was being transferred. We were all disappointed, but we congratulated him since it looked like a promotion to the headquarters. He was a good manager, so it made sense that it was moving up. The new manager was from headquarters and didn't know much about the actual work we do in the store. He wasn't very good at managing, and he often nagged at us. It didn't take long for the atmosphere in the store to feel tense and uncomfortable. According to the other part-timers, the president's wife seemed to like hiring young, attractive managers, and the new manager acted as if he was trying to stay on her good side. I often saw him talking to her. Unfortunately, his reputation was poor, and he wasn't well liked. The president's wife made things worse. She constantly complained about the part-timers, but when she spoke to male employees and the high school boys working here, her tone was sweet and pleasant. Even though we were all unhappy about her attitude, no one dared to say anything. We all just kept quiet. Over time, some of the other part-time housewives and student workers started quitting. I'd even begin to consider looking for a new part-time job myself. Then, one day, I became the president's wife's new target. "You've been working here a long time, haven't you? Is your child in college now?" "Which college?" she asked me out of the blue. I was caught off guard by the question. I worked here since the previous manager, but I didn't want to discuss my child, so I tried to avoid the topic. However, she quickly interrupted. "You look incompetent," she said. "You probably didn't even go to a decent college, did you?" That comment's done, but before I could respond, the registers got busy, so I nodded politely and rushed to help with the customers. The truth is, I only graduated from middle school. I was bullied in high school and tried to push through, but I eventually dropped out in my third year. Since then, I worked different part-time jobs, met my husband through one of them, got married, and built a life that didn't depend on a degree. The president's wife, though, seemed to be my opposite. She often bragged about being a graduate of a prestigious university, even when no one asked. Oddly, she never mentioned the university's name, which I found strange, but I didn't think much of it. It seemed like she looked down on housewives working here part-time. Assuming none of us had a high level of education, I'd even overheard her talking about it with the store manager once. Some of the other part-timers told me she'd questioned them about their education too. The next day, she came to the store again. "Excuse me," she said, looking down at me with a smirk. Trying to control my irritation, I looked up. "You're a middle school graduate, aren't you?" she sneered. "I didn't think you'd gone to college, but I never imagined you hadn't even finished high school. It's amazing you can work here with that kind of background." I suddenly realized where she'd gotten this information. The day before, I'd seen the store manager going through part-timers' resumes in the office. I thought it made sense for the manager to know about employees' backgrounds, but somehow this information reached the president's wife. Once she learned that I was a middle school graduate, she decided to spread it around the store. It was really annoying. I didn't feel ashamed of my background, but I didn't appreciate someone going out of their way to mention it. My co-workers didn't seem to care. They treated me the same, but from then on, the president's wife wouldn't miss a chance to remind me. Maybe you wouldn't understand, being a middle school graduate, she say. Or, since you're a middle school graduate, why don't you go clean up? It became her go-to line. I started wondering why I was staying at this job just to put up with her constant insults. A few days later, she showed up again, smirking by the cardboard storage area in the back. This was where boxes were kept for the supplier to pick up. We didn't usually have to clean it, yet she made a point of telling me, people like you belong with the trash, middle school dropouts like you were just a drain on the company. This was out of sight from customers, but I'd had enough. I couldn't hold back anymore. I work hard for my pay, I told her. I do my job well, and my education doesn't change that. She seemed surprised, like she didn't expect me to speak up. Why don't you do something useful if you're going to be here? All you seem to do is criticize us, I went on, not caring that other employees could see and hear. She glared, clearly offended. I'm busy, she snapped. I'm taking time from my schedule to visit the store. Oh, really? Then why are you here? I replied. You spend all your time chatting with the manager and flirting with the male staff and part-timers, all while looking down on us. Her face turned red. Just my presence here makes this place more lively. You should be grateful. I couldn't help but laugh. You really think that? None of the employees, or even the customers, feel that way. You may have an education, but it doesn't make you helpful here. I finally let out all the frustration I'd bottled up. She seemed stunned, fumbling for a comeback. Do you think you can't keep working here after this? She sneered. Then I'll quit, I replied, not hesitating. She smirked mockingly. Fine by me. We'll save on labor costs. Great for you. Then, I answered, smiling right back, and headed to the locker room. Inside, one of the part-timers who'd overheard everything asked, Mary, are you really quitting? She was sad. We'd been working together for years. Ever since the new manager came, the work's lost its joy, I explained. A lot of people have quit, and they don't replace anyone to save money. It's just too much. She nodded, agreeing. Then I went to find the manager and president's wife to make it official. When the president's wife saw me, she laughed mockingly. So the middle school graduate is quitting. I wonder if there is any job out there for someone like you. The manager joined in the laughter, so I stood my ground. Even if I have nowhere else to work, I'm never coming back here. I'll return the uniform next week. Thanks for everything. I felt unexpectedly relieved as I left the store. The following week, when I came back to return my uniform, I noticed a commotion. The store was busy, and several customers were angrily scolding the manager. It looked like there had been a problem at the register. Since I no longer worked there, I didn't interface. I went to the office to leave my uniform, but as I approached, I heard the president's wife's voice. Reluctantly, I opened the door and saw the former manager, who had been transferred to headquarters, talking to her. The president's wife left quickly when I walked in. I asked the former manager what happened at the register, and he explained that ever since I quit, other part-time workers had also resigned. The current manager was forced to work on the floor, but he didn't know how to stock shelves or operate a register, so customer complaints piled up. Today's trouble involved the president's wife. She'd been chatting with a male employee on the floor when a customer mistook her for an employee and asked for help. She brushed the customer off, saying, I don't know anything about that. When the manager tried to explain who she was, it only made the situation worse. With no other part-timers around, the manager and remaining employees were stuck trying to manage the registers and made many mistakes, leading to slow service and frustrated customers. The former manager then asked me why I left, so I told him honestly. He shared something surprising in return. He heard that the president's wife herself didn't finish college. She was actually a high school graduate. He wondered if she'd been acting superior, based on a false sense of her own education, which made her behavior even more puzzling. 2 weeks later, I noticed that the supermarket was utterly empty at a usually busy time. It wasn't surprising after all the complaints. Just then, I heard a voice behind me. It was the former manager. We exchanged greetings, and he mentioned a new store opening 1 station away. with one of his trained employees becoming the store manager. "Would you like to work there?" he asked. It felt like a fresh opportunity to start over. I felt relieved when my new part-time job was confirmed, especially since some of my old friends from the previous store were working there too. The new manager was understanding, and I got along well with the other employees and new part-timers. This new store was trying something different. It sold local side dishes and bread, which customers loved. I'd even started seeing familiar faces from the previous store, and the new store was off to a successful start. According to my coworkers, the old store was struggling. It was quiet. The manager was frequently scolded by the head office, and many new hires quit shortly after starting. They constantly needed more staff, just as I was starting to feel settled. About a month into my new job, the president's wife showed up at the store. While it wouldn't have been strange for her to visit any of the stores, she seemed to be there just to see me. "I heard a middle school dropout is working at our store again, so I came to check," she said, making me sigh. "What's the problem?" I replied calmly. "I'm not doing anything wrong." "Do you realize the other store is in trouble because of you?" she snapped. "How is that my fault?" I asked. "I didn't do anything wrong. If anything, it sounds like there is some power harassment going on." The president's wife's expression turned angry. She continued blaming me, saying I made all the other employees quit. Her accusations were unreasonable. Some of my co-workers from the old store saw what was happening and wanted to step in, but I held up my hand to stop them. I faced the president's wife calmly. "I'm just a middle school graduate. There's no way I could make everyone quit. Maybe you should ask them why they left," I said, as some of the part-timers nearby nodded in agreement. "If you can't understand why they left, I can't tell you," I continued. "You look down on people because of their education, and the manager only talks without really understanding the job. No one wants to work under those conditions." The president's wife was left speechless as she realized the truth of what I was saying. When I said that, the president's wife raised her voice even louder. "Power harassment? Are you trying to accuse me without any proof?" Just as she tried to grab me, the manager stepped in. "Please stop treating our part-timers like this," the manager said, risking his own job by standing up to the president's wife. I was about to say I was fine, but the manager firmly replied, "I am the store manager, and it's my job to protect the employees. I'll do my duty, regardless of who you are." The other part-timers began clapping. The president's wife finally lowered her hand. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and said, "Actually, I have proof of your power harassment." She glared at me, but I played a video that showed her yelling at part-timers in the other store for no reason. There were multiple recordings, and her face turned pale. Other part-timers stepped forward and showed more videos, including one where she insulted me for my middle school education. We'd all agreed to record any incidents like this in case she went too far. "Manager, let's take this to court," I said, and the other part-timers and manager agreed. Furious, the president's wife turned to the manager. "How dare you stand with them? You're fired." I looked at her calmly. "I recorded that, too. We'll protect the manager who stood up for us." Realizing she was cornered, she tried to leave. I called after her. "There are more important things in life than education. When you work in society, being a decent human matters more than degrees. Or is that why you look down on us because you have a complex about it?" She turned around, shocked. "How did you know that?" Her admission made everyone laugh. Realizing her mistake, she rushed out faster than I'd ever seen her move. Afterward, we decided to file a formal lawsuit, with video evidence and even a statement from a manager who'd previously covered for her. We had a strong case. The president's wife couldn't avoid the consequences, and we received compensation. The incident spread to other stores, and more complaints surfaced. When the president found out, he was furious. He told his wife she'd have to pay back the money by working. Since it was a local business, we soon saw her working, grumbling, at a nearby drugstore, which honestly made me laugh. Now, we're working under a trustworthy manager and have peace on the job.